Hello, welcome to Exotic Gardening UK, Yorkshire Kris Weekly. And in this week's episode, we're going to have a look around the garden at the very start of summer. And we're also going to be planting out more annual colour. So we're into June now, and this is peak planting out time for the tender plants. So a little bit earlier this year, we've getting out a few things. We've already had the onset out a couple of weeks. We've started with the Ricinus, Plectranthus and things like that as well. Now the temperatures are warm enough at night time. And we've got things like Ricinus still to plant out. So in front of me, we've got two Ricinus. We've got a green one and we've got a red one. And both of these I sowed in April. And they've grown into decent sized plants. They've had to be potted up because if you remember this season I used a compost that wasn't very good, and I quickly moved it from the small pots that they were in into much bigger pots, and they've only been in these pots for 2 weeks now, and we're going to plant these out. So we've got to be careful when you plant these out. You don't want them too close to the front of the border because these get to be big plants. So although they're very small at the moment, they're only about 30 centimetres tall, they'll easily get to about 1.5 meters, 2 meters, maybe more. And depending on which way they decide to grow, they can sort of lean one way or the other. So they do need a lot of space. But with all the other plants around it, they'll get bigger as well, and they'll sort of find their own sort of area to grow into. So I'm growing these further back, so a good 1.5 meters away from the front of the border here. And we've got bananas around me, which will get nice and large. Down here, we've got the tree dahlia that's just starting to growth, and it's only about 20 centimeters tall at the moment, and this will be a huge imposing plant. Although we keep saying, you know, in June now you think plants might be quite big, it won't take long for this to get up. By the end of June it'll be up here, and then by July it will have established itself and be a nice large plant as well as everything else. So we're going to get these out of the pots and we're going to plant these around the banana area. And we're going to continue around, and then we're going to do a nice tour of the garden. Okay, so we've got a nice large area here that we're going to plant our Ricinus in, and it's quite a big area like I said, but it'll be quickly covered by the foliage of the Ricinus and the other plants around it. I've got to be mindful, I've still got plants coming up, so just in front of me I've got a dahlia just emerging as well. But I know in this area there are no plants, or I shouldn't think there are any plants ready to come through, so there'll be no dahlias or gingers in this area. And this, what I've done here is I had to move a lot of topsoil from my front garden where I extend the driveway and put it into this part of the garden. So it's quite, you know, quite chunky clay at the moment, but there's some good nutrition in there as well. And I'm going to add lots of compost, and we're going to add lots of chicken manure into this area to bulk up the nutrients in this area for the Ricinus to grow really large. But it's nice and easy to dig this, so I'll just make a little hole here, and I'm planting this, like I said, about 1 meter away from the front of the border. These leaves of the palm tree behind me might cause a bit of an issue when they get a bit taller, but a couple of these will be cut off as well, so it shouldn't be too bad. Because obviously this plant will grow large. So this is a Ricinus. There's 2 weeks in this pot, and if I just tip this out, you can see already we've got a wonderful root run on here. Nice healthy white roots. They've actually started to spiral around at the base, so it's quickly filled that pot in just 2 weeks. So very pleased with that. Nice large leaves emerging, and these will get much bigger once we get this into the ground. So it's just as simple as digging the hole, placing it in, and then just backfilling it with the soil around. And I'll give this a really good water as well, and then we'll add a bit more compost this area to mulch the area and add nutrients over a long time, and also, and importantly, a bit of fertilizer by adding that chicken manure, the chicken pellets that we use. So that's one down. A few more to plant out, and it won't be long before this area is covered in lush leaves. So welcome to my very early summer tour 2022, and this is before everything's been tidied up And this is before everything's been planted out. I'm going to show you what the garden looks like at this stage when we're sort of in the messy period of planting out the tender plants and tidying the garden. So nothing's really been weeded, nothing's been tidied up. So this is as the garden is on this date in June 2022. But there are some good things to look at, so I'll point you towards those. But as we start, we've still got some bedding plants to plant out in these pots. And this will be my nice seating area here under the pergola. And then the nice palm that's still flowering is the Trachycarpus nova, which is really filling out this space now. Really happy with the presence of this palm with its drooping leaflets. And underneath we've got a mass of Persicaria purple fantasy. And this now needs cutting back so that it can develop beautiful leaves again for later in the season. If I leave it like this now, then what will happen is basically it will fade quite a lot. You can see it's flowering everywhere, which the bees do love. I'll give it another few days and then I'll cut it back so we get fresh regrowth, a bit like doing the Chelsea chop, and then it'll look good for August and September. If we look down to this area, which is sort of a seating area, or it will be a proper seating area, and it's nice and sunny on one side. This is my maintenance area where I'm doing some potting up. So I've got plenty of pots here, and I've got a few onset bananas here that I will probably give them a good feed soon. And these will be sold at my open days because I've not got room for them in the garden. Behind, we've got the Butia erispatha, which is looking very nice, pushing out two good leaves at the moment. Beautiful, elegant palm, this one. And above, we've got the Crinodendron, the Chilean lantern tree, which is in full bloom at the moment. Absolutely stunning. Masses and masses of red waxy flowers that the bees try to get into as well. Beautiful, beautiful shrub or small tree that covers this area. And then we've got the Pseudopanax, which is getting very large now. We've got Crassifolius and Ferox here. Both have done well over the years and grown to a great height. Always a talking point in the garden. A few more potted plants, including a beautiful rare palm that will pot up very soon. This is a Butia erispatha crossed with Syagris romanzophaena, Santa Catriana. So it's a bit of a mouthful, but basically it should be a hardy-ish coconut look-alike once it's got bigger. So this will be potted up this year one more time, and then probably planted out in a year or two's time once it's outgrown the next pot size up. Here we've got a random mix of some annuals. We've got some palm trees obviously here because we moved the Princeps palms here. So we've got three. That one's looking nice and healthy. This one's been battered by the wind a bit while it was settling in, but it'll look good by the end of the season. I've got a much smaller one down there as well. So as you can see, most of the plants are pretty small at the moment, but they will pack out this area in just a few weeks, and this will get, well, it's south facing, so it will get baked by the sun. So lots of nice sunny conditions for these plants to thrive. Here we've got a potting up area, so I've got lots of plants that I'll be potting up to sell at the open days here. And then this is the main bed. Now if you take a look at this, it's got some interesting plants in it. Obviously it's got the onset Henebas here, which is still looking okay and will look much better in a few weeks' time. But you can see loads of earth, loads of empty space. This is what you don't want to see in an exotic garden. And this is something I don't like showing my garden at this time of year, because there's always this space, because the small plants are planted out or will soon be planted out haven't filled the space yet. So soon, when the weather heats up, well, it's warming up already, but when it's sustained heat day and night, all the tender plants are going out. This will be covered in foliage and flower in just a few weeks. So yes, it looks a bit bare and barren at the moment, but soon it will look probably the most interesting part of the garden. And then you've got the winding path going through these borders. Here we've got a wonderful specimen of a palm that was bought as a Trachycarpus common, not a tachyle and not a nanital. It's got beautiful leaves on this one, and it's growing rather nicely in this area. Really healthy colour of the leaves as well. We've got some hostas down here. I've got my workbench, and we've also got a trampoline over here. but we won't dwell on that. And we've got the beautiful blue bamboo, Berinda 1046, which is a very tall bamboo. It is clumping. It does cast some dappled shade across this area, but not too much at the moment. And I think it's a very nice blue, icy blue bamboo that I love in this location. And you've got the Persicaria red dragon by the side of it. And like I said, we've got the nice hostas underneath. And then if we come down the path to the right, you can see a dead palm. This is a Butia that we're digging out soon. This is Catriensis, which would not hide in my garden at all. Both have died, even after not a killer winters. I think it got to -7 a couple of years ago, and it's definitely died. Given it a year or so, and there's no sign of growth on that, so that'll be coming out. Swing over this side, we've got loads of Kentia palms for undergrowth here. We've got a Musa Baju. We've got another Nova there. We've got the Polycarpus here, and we've got a nice Scheffler here as well, which is flushing. And then up there, we've got a nice Trachycarpus Fortunii that's just finishing flowering as well, and that is grown super tall. And the tree to the right of it, that's Calopanax. Wonderful tree with big thorny trunk on it, so that's a very interesting plant. We've got the flushing here of the Dicksonia antarctica tree ferns, looking magnificent, and the old foliage still looks really good as well, so that'll be staying on this year. No need to cut that off because it's still very green. And underneath we've got some little trays of plants we'll be planting out, so we've still got my Spanish flag seedlings there. You can see they're small. We've got some zinnias, still small, but they'll be planted out soon. They're just hardening off in this sort of shady undergrowth area before they're planted out in a few days' time, so it's not too late to get these planted out. You know, we're into June now and I've still not planted out a lot of my very tender plants because I've not got big enough. I've got the collection of Fatsias here. We've got Annalise, we've got Mosari behind as well, looking pretty nice. We've got here, wind's gone through and sort of battered this a bit, but this, look at the leaf of that. That is absolutely gorgeous. That's as good as Siam Ruby in my eyes. But this is a Sycamensis, but a really good form. Look at the deep red maroon on that leaf. Really nice. And if you look at the battered leaf, that's nice and stripy and patterned as well. So really nice banana. And these are so variable from seed, so one can look like this and one could be pretty much green with just a little blush of red underneath, but this one's a fantastic specimen. Montbelliardii here as well, looking a bit battered, but this will soon grow nice new leaves. And here, like I said, are the plants coming through the ground, like the dahlias still showing, and the bedding plants we just planted out. Again, very small at the moment, but will be catching up very soon. This is always catching people's eyes when people visit the garden. This is Amicia zygomeris. Beautiful, interesting leaves. We'll have yellow pea flowers later, but it's a foliage I grow this for. And within a few weeks, this will be 2 meters tall. So very nice herbaceous shrub from Mexico. We've got the cannas that are left in the ground. They're just coming through nicely. These were grown from seed about 6-7 years ago now. And these are stay out all winter, no protection, and they're totally fine. We've got the rest of the Trachycarpus family all along here. We've got every species planted out. More bananas. And we've got a wonderful Scheffler there. This is Taiwaniana. Big flush of leaves, beautiful plant. We've got the Geranium palmatum, possibly crossed with Medarense, but it's a beautiful plant. Bees love it. And it's flowers for ages. So a nice bit of early colour to the garden, just comes back every year. Down here, we've got a nice innular daisy, which will be flowering in a month or 2 time. Big, large leaves on it, so we've got interest early in the season. And then up there, we've got my biggest Dicksonia antarctica, that's probably approaching about 2.5–3 meters tall at the top of the leaves. And then here, look at this wonderful plant. Look at these interesting leaves appearing here. This is Scheffler macrophylla. Wonderful, large, very exotic tropical leaves, and proved hardy so far in the last 4 years in my garden. Stunning plants, absolutely gorgeous. Underneath, we've got some more bedding to plant out. So we've got some Tiphonias, Mexican sunflowers, which are just recovering from that bad compost after being repotted into some decent compost. These will be planted out and make quite substantial plants as well by the time we get into July and August. We've got the loquat tree flushing and not being attacked really by bugs this year, so that's nice, beautiful flush of leaves on here. We've got the Aralia variegated here, the yellow variegation. Stunning leaves on this, absolutely gorgeous plant, quite rare to find because normally it's just green, but this is the yellow variegated form. Look at that with the reddish stems as well, and got thorns underneath on the main stem. Beautiful plant. But then if we just pan across, we've got the huge Gunnera manicata, and you can see the leaves are too big to fit in frame, so if I just step back as much as I can without falling over the path on the other side, you can see how big it is. And we've got a new leaf unfurling there, and like I said, I'm 2 meters tall. This is starting out at 2 meters, so that's going to be probably 2.5 meters tall by the time it's unfurled itself. So that is one big plant that needs a lot of space. So I've given this a lot of space. I mean, this area here is about 3 meters, probably a bit more than 3 meters across this way. I've given it a good 2.5 meters depth of border as well. So in spring it's got daffodils and arium lilies, and then in summer you've got the Gunnera manicata to fill this large area. So just pan back down. This is the view going down. Again, this will look much better in just a few weeks' time. Got my miscanthus grasses growing nicely here. This is the zebra grass. And then we've got to fight our way past the Gunnera. It's very like sandpaper-like leaves. And we can see the miscanthus giganteus grass, or sacrophilus, crossed with giganteus. Just getting to about 1.5 meters tall here and here. And in just a few weeks' time, it'll be 2.5 meters tall. If we just go across the pond, we've got the other Gunneras. So these are Gunneras tinctorias, still making large plants. You know, nice garden-worthy plants, although they are, strictly speaking, banned from sale, although pretty much all Gunneras in garden centres are tinctoria, rather than the manicata that you can see over there. Got the arum lilies, calla lilies, should I say, in the pond. Got the nice waterfall with the Chilean ferns around it as well, and some climbing plants. That's quite a nice view. And then over the archway, if we look up, we've got the chocolate vines, which are finished flowering now. We've got the passion flowers here, and we've also got the potato vine over there, which is in full bloom at the moment with its lavender potato flowers. We've got the yucca, and this is flowering, loads and loads of flowering stems coming off this yucca here, which is on a raised bank by the pond, but it doesn't flood this part, so it is pretty dry. That does well. Princeps palm here, and just on the other side as well, just over there. And we'll look down towards the pond, we can see we've got the purple fancy that needs cutting back as well, as it's overgrowing into the pond and sort of collapsing a bit, so that will be cut back. We've got a nice black phormium over there as well. And over here, more calla lilies flowering here, so nice in the very early summer garden. And then we've got the big one behind, which is not flowering yet. So this is Hercules with the spotted leaves, and that'll be flowering in probably about a month's time. And there we are, a bit windy this morning, a bit cool, a bit fresh, but it's good for filming because I ain't got the high contrast sunlight to deal with. And if we go through the archway, we can see my favourite palm, the biggest palm, which is the Jubea chilensis, the Chilean wine palm. Beautiful big feather leaves on this, huge great big plants, and this dominates this central bed, which has various different plants around it, including the red devil astelia. We've got a bromeliad down there, we've got some little echeverias that have been out all winter. We've got the agapanthus coming through, and there'll be some more succulents added to this area. Here we've got one of the summer bedding beds, but we don't add much to it. It basically just all comes through itself. So we've got the pink chinas down here, we've got the dahlias coming through, the dark leaf dahlias, we've got gingers over there, we've got the begonias that have come through winter as well, and we've also got a nice bunch of cannas coming through as well. Got a nice chocolate hydrangea and the gunneras here, and then in front of it we've also got the aloes striatulas, and we've got a nice flowering plant down here. This is a boution, and this is very hardy. Bought it for £1 from Asda, and it's been flowering all winter and flowering all spring, and just carries on going all year round, just looking like this. Not tall plant, it's quite low growing at the moment, quite spindly, but it does flower pretty much all year round. Got a pigeon just above my head, hopefully it won't land on my head. And if we look down, we've got some nice arid or drought tolerant plants here. Got a phormium on the left, we've got the thorifera palm there, we've got a nice yucca linearis there. And then we've got the main arid bed here. So we've got the agave americana, we've got the montanas, that's a smaller one, and then we've got the bigger one over there, which probably in the next 5 years I'd imagine it's going to flower, so that'll be an amazing event when it happens. And then we've got the blue of the Briar and Marta palm. If this was a sunny day you'd see it even better, but even on this very dull morning you can still see the blue leaves of this palm. We've got a nice volcano here, volcano, the chimrops. That's a nice sort of bushy palm, but I might cut off a lot of these side leaves just to neaten it up a bit as well and expose a bit of the trunk, and that's flowering. Another arid bed here with 3 large plants, Desilarion, Glaucophyllum there, with its twisty leaves, Chemrops humilis at the back, and then this Faxonia, which I will cut off quite a lot of the lower leaves. You can see they're dying off with the age, and this will show off the trunk of this yucca, which can grow huge. This can grow many meters tall eventually. Very imposing, very dangerous looking plant with the big spikes on it, so I will be chopping them back a bit for the path. And as you can see down there, another work in progress. Put a chair over it, but obviously when you're dealing with wood and decking and watering plants a lot, you do get bits that are rotting. So this was put down, was it 8 years ago now? So little bits have rotted, so I will be replacing a few of the boards in this area. And that is the original ground level down there. So everything basically in this garden is a raised bed, because down there was lawn, so that's 25 centimeters down. And then we've built up the soil levels, the gravel levels for all the planting. So that gives really good drainage. So we'll spin around once more, and we'll go to the new bed which I showed you last week, which was a bit more of a drought tolerant arid style bed. Bit of colour with the daisies, got the aeoniums and got the agaves in there as well. Still got the Cycas revoluta, which hopefully will flush very soon. It's got the perspex over it to keep it nice and warm on sunny days, and then I'm keeping it well watered as well, and hopefully it'll flush soon. Above that we've got the flowers of the melianthus, which is sort of sprawling over here, but it's actually growing from a growth point over there. And then we come to sort of a bed that's basically just green. So we've got the bamboos here, we've got bananas, got the butia palm, and here I've got another work in progress, because we've got the wonderful and extremely rare Trachycarpus aureophyllus growing here. But underneath we've got a mass of bamboo seedlings which I've started digging up. I've got a lot more to dig up here, which will expose this area and allow light in and allow nutrients to get to the palm tree, and all these seedlings will be potted up as well and will be grown on and sold later this and next year. Got a little bit of colour there from this bamboo, and the cordylines behind. If we just go around this way, you can see it's quite a green, calm area down here. But look at all these bamboo seedlings I need to dig up. It's going around the bootia palm as well. Nice bootia here, odorata. And if we just come round, got the play area down there. That's where the flowering bamboo was before I dug it up. Still got loads of seedlings down there and masses in this area. Here we have one of many Trachycarpus princeps hybrids with its wonderful bluish, whitish green leaves on the underside. Some look whiter than others, and depending on the way the light's shining, they can look whiter and silver. And if we look up, we have got the very large Tetrapanax, which is, like I said, approaching 2.5, 3 meters tall at the very top now. In silhouette up there, so that is a large plant. We'll come down, get past these, and we can see, it's a bit of a highlight at this time of year, is my tree fern forest, all flushing at the same time. And look how beautiful that looks like, all that fresh growth of all these tree ferns looking absolutely wonderful. Got the eucalyptus as well. Even the old leaves look really good condition, so I'm glad I kept those on. Yeah, the eucalyptus is beautiful up there. And we switch round, we've got the much taller gunny eye eucalyptus, which goes on forever into the sky now. And the tallest flowering tree in the world, Eucalyptus regnans, over there in the corner. And beyond, we've got the fields, which are just meadows where the cows go in later in the year. Round here, we've got the Paulownia that I transplanted from the front garden. So this is like recovery year, because I've only just planted this about a month ago. So this is just getting its roots down, and then in a year or two we'll let it shoot for the sky. At the moment we're letting a couple of shoots just carry on growing, and we won't do anything with them this year to keep it well watered. And in future years we'll just keep it to one shoot to get to a huge tall plant with big leaves. The Scanthus grasses in the middle here, which are approaching 1.5, 2 meters tall already in this part of the garden. And more bamboos, more Tetrapanax up here, and then more tree ferns, including this double header over here. This is a very dark area, so this is why the tree ferns and the other ferns like it down here. And if we just go in, we can see cast iron plant as well. And I've also got some other hardy parlour palms down here. And then we'll just scoot out of this area. And we've got some hardy begonias coming through, Eventii, and some gingers as well, and more cannas in this part of the garden. And then we can look back down the garden. And this is what the garden looks like in early June. Pretty much the same every year in terms of the growth rate of the plants. But come back and see my full summer tour in August, and it will look very different. Lots more colour, much bigger, bolder plants everywhere, big leaves, and it will look like a proper jungle. But for now, that is the garden tour for June 2022. Thank you for watching this edition of Exotic Gardening UK. Join me next week while we're doing more in the garden.